What's going on, everybody? It's Spunkify here on behalf of MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to the Free to Play Podcast, episode 103. Today is March 30th, 2014. Oh man, already moving into the fourth month in 2014. My oh my, are these years passing by quite quickly, or maybe it's just because I'm getting older, who knows? Speaking of getting older, I'm just kidding. Jason, Winter, I've given away your introduction. How are you doing?
Every week, it's got to be the age thing.
I'm a man of habit, Jason.
So are nuns.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I don't know where that was leading.
A nun-like when I compare you in age to a stallion. I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know where I went. I'm sorry.
Nuns, it threw me off. How are you doing though?
I'm doing okay. Just sitting around, chilling on a Sunday.
Chilling, okay. It's just like a normal everyday Sunday. Have you killed any orcs this weekend?
Don't think I've killed any orcs. No. I'm literally trying to think of what I've killed this weekend. I don't think any orcs were among them.
What was among
a few Daedra though, perhaps.
Oh, a few Daedra. Okay, that's to be expected. You know, orcs, Daedra. Mm-hmm. You know, the run in the mill. You know, the fantasy creatures alike. Speaking of fantasy creatures, though, we've got one here. Beside you and I, Jason, we're fantasy creatures in our own rights. But
I'm just a fantastic creature.
Yes. I can't imagine what the glitter that's coming off of you right now must look like. But some glitter that's right next to me, Jason. Literally right next to me.
Squid!
Squid returning once again for her one episode every 6 months or so that she comes on. How are you doing, Squid?
Alright. Just came back from the high frequency third dimension.
Oh, man. And what did you see there?
I can't explain to you with words.
With words. Maybe sounds and signals. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Try grunting. Try grunting a little bit.
That's words of wisdom from the third dimension right there, guys. Words of wisdom. But speaking of wisdom, we've got some interesting sort of news to impart with you guys. Some words of wisdom of our own, as well as some discussionary points. We're going to talk about a new game that gives away itself in its title, Zombies, Monsters, and Robots. We're also going to be talking a little bit about APB Reloaded. It's reloading itself, getting a new engine upgrade. Planetside 2, getting some pop-up ads. Say what? And then Jason Winter, you've got a little bit of a preview of a preview, I guess.
So to speak. But it might not be a preview because it might already be on the site by the time this goes up. So.
Well, it's a discussion of a preview, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Black Gold from Snail Games. So quite a lot of good action-packed information dealing with in this episode here. And as always, buckle up, strap in, and let's get right on into it. All right. So starting us off, we're talking about Zombies, Monsters, and Robots. There's not even an and. It's just Zombies, Monsters, Robots. Like, they literally just took out the and of the name. It's a new game being published by, of all people, EndWar Studios, and being worked on by Blue Hole Studios, who you may know from, of course, working with EndWar Studios on Terra Online, the fantasy-based action MMORPG. So, Zombie Monster Robots, little-known game that actually has already came out in the East, known as Mercenary Ops, a third-person shooter of sorts. The studio behind it, Yingpei Games. Yingpei, I don't actually know if I'm saying that correctly. I feel terribly Western for not knowing how to say that. But they're the studio behind it. They actually used to work with Epic Games on a couple of different games you may have heard of. Jason and Squid, you may have heard of them too. BioShock, maybe.
I may have played BioShock.
Maybe.
I may have heard of that.
Just a bit. And then Gears of War, of course. The very neck muscle heavy action shooter from the early Xbox 360 days. That was like one of the touted sort of like main title games.
That was the Halo killer.
That was supposedly the Halo killer, of course. So they've worked on those, and they're sort of bringing a little bit of that knowledge to their next game, their first full-length titled featured film-ish game that they're bringing, I guess you could say, which was Mercenary Ops, released in the East. And here it's being rebranded as Zombies, Monsters, and Robots, but it seems like there may be a little bit more than just a name change and a localization. Jason, looking at the the trailer. We've actually seen a little bit of what the gameplay will look like now, but we did a Forum Friday on it actually a couple of a year ago, if not, where we took a look at the sort of what people could expect from Mercenary Ops if it came here. And from the looks of things, the two games look very much similar, albeit with a couple of visual upgrades. Did you notice anything in particular that sort of stood out to you from what little you could see about the gameplay?
Yeah, there is 8 seconds of gameplay along with 30 seconds of the woman's lips. So
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like pretty good fights. I mean, if you got big, huge, obviously, as people who make terror, would be aware of, big ass monsters.
Mm-hmm.
You've got those, and you got people who can join up to go fight them. That's pretty cool. Like she says, it's a little different from fighting soldiers all the time. So, yeah, if you got big monsters or giant robots or whatever, that's great. That's something different. The zombies, maybe not so different.
Yeah, that's the thing. The video itself, the trailer, the girl who like speaks, all you see is her lips, and you can kind of see who's this is getting geared towards. Like they have seductive lips, talking about how are you tired of just killing soldier after soldier after soldier? And I'm like, I'm kind of tired of killing zombies too, to be quite honest. Like,
you know what I'm trying to figure out? It's like this is the second time now that Terra Enmas Bluehole has done a game where they're like, that game you play, it's so stupid now. Do you remember the Terra commercial? With
the pumped up
with Boz Rutan, the MMA guy. He's like, oh, why you play stupid tab target game?
Yeah.
It's like, do you really want to keep insulting your players that much? I don't know.
Squid, you're over here just like laughing it up. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I think it sounds awful.
To be honest, like that's sort of what you have to. Okay, it looks like there's been a couple of graphical updates to the game from Mercenary Ops, the original, and it is named differently. So perhaps there is, I've got to be the neutral one here and say perhaps there is something that they've changed. It does look like a little bit of the visual aspects have changed, and maybe they've added a couple more monster types. Because when I played it, I guess since I'm the only one here who's actually played a variation of it.
It just seems like they're targeting the really awful kids that you went to school with in middle school that used to beat up people. And
you mean this isn't gonna be
watch like WWE every day?
This isn't gonna be highbrow, very heavy thinking kind of entertainment like
they are spelling out like what you will be facing in the name title. I mean, like it's more. I guess if they made Terror Online, Big Boobs Online, then that would have been like another way to like classify that game. But Zombies Monsters,
that would be Scarlet Blade actually.
Yeah.
Terror Online. After Scarlet Blade, no other game is Big Boobs Online.
No, for sure. But Scarlet,
a
while, Terra did hold that title.
Yes.
For a while. But yeah, I mean, the game itself, it is offering third-person sort of cover-based shooter mechanics that were really, really popular in the early 2000s during, Gears of War period. Because, ironically, the game actually has this sort of reload mechanic that Gears of War does as well, where you can get, like, a bonus to reloading if you do it at a certain time. So a lot of those mechanics have sort of carried over, it seems, from when the studio worked on Gears of War and on Bioshock. I don't know really what's translated over from Bioshock, but definitely can see the Gears of War influence. And we can sit here and say all the things that it's not. But the question is there another FPS out there that we can think of that would fill this niche in the Western market that's free to play? I mean, that's really what you have to think about it. Is there a good horde-based shooter that's currently out? I mean, you got Blacklight Retribution has a horde mode. I haven't really heard too much about that. I can't really sort of stop and think about a good third-person shooter other than, say, Ghost Recon Phantoms, the newly renamed Ghost Recon Phantoms, that offers something against the normal sort of military run-of-the-mill, while even offering a PvE, player versus environment.
So instead of having the void filled, or having the void empty, you just want it filled with anything, even if it's something like this Zombies Monsters Robots game. You're just like, fill that void. Just fill it with anything. It doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm just looking at it from the perspective of, is it better than nothing? Maybe not. Is
it better than nothing? I don't know.
You tell me, Jason.
Jason, is it better than nothing?
Well, yeah, whatever. No, I mean, like I said, the only thing that really looks interesting to me that beyond what you get in any other game is again kind of what she puts out. Like that it's not just fighting human-sized enemies. Be able to, if there are interesting strategies for fighting the big-ass monsters or whatever they are,
Hmm.
that's more beyond just pump more bullets into them. Like if you have to target certain areas, that could be kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously not going for like I said, going for intense tactics or anything like that. It's probably going to have a humorous bent to it and not be very serious. So if they can hit that market, more power to them.
It just does seem like they know and going in. Like I guess you could look at Mercenary Ops as a name and like, well, what's wrong with that name? It's sort of recognizable if you ever were paying attention to it in the Eastern market. But I guess if they're trying to appeal to a wider audience and getting past the whole mercenary, as this is not actually about killing soldiers, this is about killing zombies, monsters, and robots.
Yeah,
Uh,
that and a game like and a sound like Mercenary Ops does sound it does sound generic military. It's like Black like Retribution or something like that. Zombie Monster Robot, it's standing out. That name is definitely standing out. We're gonna remember that one.
I have yet to see any monsters and robots though. Lots of zombies in the video. What little
Wasn't
video
there
I
a
could see.
giant robot? I thought maybe I'm
Oh,
gonna
maybe there was like at the very back, the shooting rockets or something like that. I don't know. The like you said, the whole fleeting 8 seconds of
exactly.
gameplay laced with 28 seconds of someone's lips.
Okay, maybe the players were in the robots. Maybe that was it.
Maybe. Who
And
knows?
what's the difference between monsters and zombies?
That's what I wanted. That's what I really wanted to know. Like, isn't that technically a zombie a form of monster? Isn't it being redundant a little bit?
Now you're being all technical.
I
Wait,
don't
what?
know.
I think there was a dinosaur, like a raptor with guns on its back.
Yeah, I did see there is going to be dinosaur DLC coming out. They said after the game launches, there'll be dinosaur DLC, which, to be
Well,
honest, any game is better with dinosaurs. I mean,
well, but
come on.
dinosaurs aren't monsters, really. They're just animals. So it's zombies, monsters, robots, dinosaurs.
Well, I guess they have to do like a plus dino at the end, whatever the expansion comes out, right? The little additional name.
And then there's gonna be a boss level where it's Tesla riding a T-Rex, just shooting
No,
electricity at you.
no, it's gonna be Optimus Prime riding a dinosaur with a sword. Remember
There we
from
go.
the trailer?
Transformers 4.
He's a robot.
So is some of the people who make those movies sometimes, I feel.
Oh, Michael Bay, maybe he's a
Michael
monster.
Bay's a robot. No wonder he
Or
makes such
he's a-
robotic movies. Oh, man. All right. Well, moving on. Speaking of something that isn't a robot, I guess. I don't know. That was a terrible transition. APB Reloaded.
Well, there probably are aimbots, but anyway.
That is true. Ha! There it is. There's the connection. APB Reloaded. They gave a recent update on their transition to a new Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine 3 has been what they've been working with since 2008, but they're updating to a newer version of it, the 2013 version of it. And to be honest, these updates aren't necessarily things that are easy. I'm not saying I'm capable of doing them. But the developers there, the Reloaded team, they're running into some issues. And quite a few issues, it seems like. They're talking about it being a Pandora's box of programming, concerns and issues that are plaguing the development as they transition over. According to the developers on the blog post, the transition involves removing and stripping out a lot of separate key functionality that was built into the engine specific for APV. And so having to sort of take that out and re-engineer it for the new engine is causing complex issues, they say. Which, I can understand that, but sort of my question to you guys is, Jason, you've been sort of affluent or you've known about APB for a while, and we've sort of seen some of the issues that players have been noting about APB, as you said, the botters, the sort of lack of content updates. Do you think the developers just sort of bit off more than they could chew with doing like an update like this? Because they say it's still coming, but they say that there's not really going to be any major significance in what you can see in terms of difference to begin with.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they would take this step because, like you say, it's not small. I mean, it's completely. It's almost like starting over. Not exactly, but it's like completely altering the foundation of the game and having to rebuild it from the ground up. It would seem so. It's a major step. It's something that I'm a little surprised to see them doing. You think that a game, if it's doing well, then they wouldn't need to, and if it's doing poorly, then they wouldn't be able to exert the money and the resources and whatever to be able to do this. So it makes you wonder what exactly their goal is, other than just, like I said, if it's not going to look any better, how's it going to run better? Is that what it's going to be? Is it going to put in more systems to stop the cheaters and the hackers and whatever? What exactly is the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, you make it mention like there's if it's not going to make anything look better, what exactly is it there for? They mention the possibility of it looking better, the possibility
Sure.
of all these things getting added in. I'm like, sure, the possibilities are great for those things. It's also possible that this could become the #1 MMO of all time or something like that. But
Eh,
those are possibilities. Those aren't, we're not seeing concrete sort of progression in that. And a lot of players are just, especially even in the comments about the article that we posted about this, they're expressing their concern that the team was focusing on the wrong things. Could this time be better spent improving what is currently there, improving the removing of hackers and the patching of new content, etc., rather than sort of backtracking, if you will, and rebuilding the game so that they could sort of build it how they dream up they want to build it, essentially.
I mean, it's possible maybe that's what they need to do. They need to update it so that they can make new content, because
Yeah,
putting new content on the current system doesn't work very well. So that could
that
be the reasoning for it.
that could be true, but I almost wonder if they should seek outside funding, or if perhaps they just don't have enough money. Because it's one thing to make large updates and also concurrently say make content, but it's another thing to completely stop real content introduction for I don't know how many months they've said they've been working on this, but it's sort of clear that they've been working on it primarily outside of other things. And I kind of wonder, you look at a lot of more popular MMOs. Heck, Mabinogi's taught me over the last few weeks that a game doesn't need to look great or have a newest engine to have a very dedicated and active fan base who plays the game religiously, and enjoys any new content updates.
They must not care about the fan base too much if they want to just like overhaul the entire thing and not really focus on what the fans want focused on.
But it makes you wonder why. What would they gain out of? Are they trying to sell it after it gets a new engine? Perhaps that it has a better chance.
They want to sell it to Facebook and integrate it with the Oculus Rift.
It could be, with the Unreal 3 engine.
To be the ultimate social Facebook Oculus Rift gaming
Grand Theft Auto experience, yeah.
All they say on their dev blog is that it improves a lot of systems throughout the game, and has a potential. They say potential for nice visual enhancements.
See, they're giving us information, but at the same time, not. I feel as though they're giving us like, yeah, this is the things they're going to help with, and we're kind of like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But what's your end goal here? If you're not going to be implementing visual enhancements immediately upon doing this, what are the immediate benefits that we are actually gaining, and what are your immediate benefits in the first few months, I would assume, after the implementation goes live? Because it's one thing to implement something and then another thing to implement it and then do nothing with it. In the sense of doing nothing with it that we would expect you to do with it, having gone through the whole trouble of setting it up.
Yeah, I mean, they do talk about various issues that they have with the current engine the way it is right now, and I guess updating this, like I said, I think it will just make it easier for them to do stuff in the future.
Yeah.
That's probably the entire extent of it, and to maintain what they've currently got.
I'm really surprised that they sort of expressed how much problem they're having with updating the engine. Like, it's one thing to admit your mistakes, but
one thing to remember is that Gamers First didn't make the game. That was it was a Real-Time Worlds who made the original game, and then they went belly up and had to sell it and so on. So I guess they're not saying they did anything wrong, because they were working with what the other guys had. And chances are there's probably some developer at Gamers First who's been there for like years has been like, this thing is awful, we have to update it. And finally he got he finally got enough traction and got permission from the higher ups to do it. So
yeah, they've had it for quite a long time, so they certainly have known what the issues have been.
Mm-hmm.
For quite a while. I'm just curious. We'll have to see. They still have yet to give any ETA, which is really what I think is the scariest thing. Is even despite them saying, yes, this is difficult, we've been working on this for months, they're not even comfortable with saying this year, 2014. They're saying we have no ETA right now. I would at very least say sometime in 2014 if they had planned on that. But if it may go over a year, that's what really starts to worry me, is like that they're not even they're willing to talk about it, but they're not willing to talk about any kind of time frame. Would that
Well, you
worry
always
you?
hate to do that just in case
I don't know.
it
Press them
slips.
for a time frame. Contact them.
I guess that's all you have to do is press them for a time frame. But if they're not willing to give it, what can you do? Move on, I guess. I'm not sure. But there's other MMO FPSs that you can play, Jason. One of them we're actually going to talk about next, of course. Dealing with Planetside 2.
Which I've actually been playing quite a bit of lately.
Yes, you got your computer upgraded quite
Yeah.
well. Squid over here, Squid's not much of a FPS individual, but me and you, Jason, we could reminisce about our amazing times with
Yogo, you only grenade once.
You only grenade once. Exactly. You only grenade once. So what we all can, though, talk about is how we feel about pop-up ads. I'm sure we can all agree that pop-up ads are sort of the bane of our internet existence at times.
You mean they don't bring your heart full of joy and happiness? Just light up your life every time you see one?
They light up my monitor.
They used to light up my life when I was maybe in middle school and the internet was new and I didn't understand that I didn't win $1 million.
I'm a winner!
You didn't understand that there wasn't some hot mature in your area who wanted to whatever.
Yes, Jason. I don't know about you personally, but that may have happened for, occasionally. But we're starting to see a couple of pop-ups pop up in Planetside 2. Say that 3 times fast. Pop-ups popping up in Planetside 2.
I'd rather not.
But yes, the recent update, there's been, of course, some updates that have been going through for Planetside 2, some roadmap things being implemented. We've had the recent introduction of the mission system been added, now that Planetside 2 has had sort of like a lot of the performance issues addressed. And there's even talks of a new vehicle, Jason, the Valkyrie, a 4-man harasser with wings, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Flying through the air, have people in rumble seats on the sides, dropping out, helping their buddies out. Seems pretty awesome. That's not going to be slated till later this summer. But until then, what's slated for now, Jason, is small little pop-up ads that come up in your bottom right hand of the screen. They invite you, if you're not a subscriber, to subscribe to Sony's fancy premium package services, where you'll get all kinds of rewards, of course, for being a premium member. These appear occasionally during gameplay, and they require a yes or a no, a Y or an N response to remove. Is it an adware or is it not? For 1,000 points, whoever would like to take this question.
I don't know if I'd call it adware, but I would call it annoying. Definitely. I think I can remember seeing this happen, though, weirdly, like about a year ago when I was playing. It might have just come up once. I mean, I don't know if it was during gameplay or it might have been just when I first logged in. Had a little thing in the corner that said, "You have a special offer. Look at it." And then I press Y, look at it, say, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, to have that come up especially during gameplay, during active gameplay while I'm doing something. If it came up when I was like on my death screen or something like that when I'm not really doing anything, then, whatever, I can maybe deal with it. But to have it interrupt my gameplay, that's something I really can't think I've ever seen in a free-to-play game where it wasn't at least triggered by something else. Like I get an item and it says, or I get a lockbox says, "Hey, you can open this buy a key," or whatever. To just have it randomly come up.
I'm waiting for the cross-marketing with Planetside 2. What are the cross demographics? Like Domino's going to be in there, and then
Well, that was the old EverQuest thing, being able to order
Domino's. They're just
Domino's.
going to put everything. They're going to show Netflix ads.
Everything comes through in the premium ad service. No, Matt Higbee actually did offer a response in regards to this, and you were right, Jason. These things have popped up for a little bit now, but they seem to be sort of popping up more often, apparently, especially after the recent patches. A couple times, according to Matt Higbee, the creative director of Planetside 2, in a forum post, he talked about, we have to pay for the game somehow. There has to be some kind of way to actually pay for the cost, and according to him, he says alternatives are to either cut back on the development resources or add more and more items for our existing supporters to purchase to make up the difference. Compared to those options, I think you'll agree that increasing awareness of our membership and marketplace offerings and expanding the percentage of players who support the game is preferable, as it is what keeps development going.
No, I would not agree. Sorry, Matt. That there are ways to advertise your product, and that's not one of them.
No, and that's sort of the thing I wanted to touch upon, like what is crossing that line, with your marketing. Okay, you're letting everybody play the game for free, but how intrusive are you going to let those ads come into your gameplay? You mentioned, Jason, having them pop up maybe when you were on your desktop or something like that. But I was even thinking just maybe when you die, if it just popped up when you died, when you're not doing anything important.
Maybe not every death, because for me it'd be like every 30 seconds. But yeah,
occasionally when you died, if you want to make it non-intrusive, you're gonna make it when you don't have to do anything. Why would you make it pop up when you're flying a vehicle, when you're driving? Like, you clearly are going to be more involved with what you're doing.
Yeah. And they already have it on the load screens. I mean, I've seen it when I go to like a new planet. They had that deal they were running recently about double XP for members or something. They had that running on the bottom. Fine, put that there. I don't mind seeing that on a load screen, but yeah, while I'm actually in the game trying to shoot stuff, no, there's no way you can put that on there.
There's actually another ad place right below the deploy button, which says upgrade now.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Yeah.
But, things that are stationary that you would know are going to be there all the time and you can expect to be there are better than those that come up on your actual HUD, your heads-up display, when you're playing it, and sort of distract you from maybe... Because those are also... They use the same sort of icon and pop-up that, like, friend notifications...
Yeah.
And other important notifications come through in the game. So it can distract you, of course.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened. I think the time I explained it happened to me. Like, I saw that there, and I just automatically pressed Y, because I was like, okay, what is it? Oh, that's what it is. It's not like a group invite or something like that. It's just... Huh?
It's just an ad.
Yeah.
Squid, I'm curious, what sort of advertisement in a free-to-play game, in all seriousness, would you be sort of privy to? Like, what would you consider? None?
Whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Okay, so when you log into a free-to-play game, what would you like to see? How would you like to know about the cash shop? Or how is the cash shop? Is it just an icon there with nothing on the front screen saying what's in the shop?
Yeah, it's really annoying when, like, free-to-play games constantly advertise, like, check out our cash shop. We have items in our cash shop. We have these fake monies you can buy with real cash for our item shop. Like, there's constant reminders of those things all the time. It's not as if people don't know where those things are. It's very obvious for them.
I did an article a few months back about how, these free-to-play games, so many of them, they push free in your face so much. They're like, free, everything's free. That then people get in the game and like, oh, I have to pay money to do something? Why would I have to do that? They said it was free. So, like Squid was saying, maybe people don't know that there's a cash shop sometimes. I can believe there's some people who actually get into some of these games and don't really realize they're gonna be trying to sell you something. So I get that you have to try to push it on them a little bit. Again, that's kind of maybe your fault, for the developer's fault, for being so aggressive about marketing it as free. But I agree there needs to be something there, just so but it shouldn't be so intrusive.
It just seems like there's people behind the scenes like, our free players aren't giving us enough money. How can we monetize them more?
No, there's actually a comment I read when I was perusing articles about this from a player who said that people should open up their eyes, because he actually noted how a lot of the things that Sony used to do with Planetside 2 early on, like give double free XP weekends and such for all players, have now shifted more towards the pay-to-play players. You mentioned, Jason, the double XP for premium players, for subscribing. Mm-hmm. I don't really recall the last time they offered that for free players.
Oh, okay, for free players, yeah.
Yeah, for free players, exactly. So they're starting to shift a little bit more towards, hey, premium members, you get all these nice bonuses, etc. Of course, while seeming to somewhat shaft in some ways the free-to-play players, there have always been, in my opinion, like ways that Sony could reduce, the cash shop, certification requirements for weapons, at least the older weapons, as they continue to add new weapons into the game. Because that's really one of the only sort of cash grinds, that I've most noted. I've always felt that certifications for like upgrades for your personal character were fine, but weapons always seemed a little bit too high. But yeah, I would definitely say I would have to agree with Squid, and it seems like they're pushing more of the monetization recently. And I don't know if that's because development costs are getting higher because they're trying to put out new content, or if it's because the game is losing player base or what have you. But the whole sort of Sony trying to remake its images in recent years, trying to put out these new AAA games, it's going to be marred a little bit if they can't execute well on the monetization side of things and scare people off that way.
And they've also been trying to remake their image as being a friendlier company. You got Smedley on Twitter or on Reddit all the time, well, on Twitter too, but And especially, I mean, I think back to that thing they had with their subscriptions, their station pass, whatever it was, where they had the plan and people reacted very badly to it. And Smedley came on and said, "All right, well, we'll change it to something else and that you guys can agree with." So this would seem to be sort of in that same line. Like you would expect that Smedley or maybe Higby or someone would come on and say, "All right, you guys voiced your concern. You don't like it. We're going to change it." So,
but Higby says they're just going to continue with it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
There's
don't know.
no changing in that, which is curious, right? It's pretty curious.
Sounds like it's an order from the top down. Do it.
Everybody has a boss, it seems. Never get away from it. Everybody has something that wants you. So everybody has someone who wants you to do something you don't
Everyone
want to do.
sells their soul.
Who have you sold your soul to?
No one yet. I haven't received anything. I don't have a cush Sony job that I sold my soul for.
I'll give you $350 for it. $350.
For your soul. That's a low bargain there. I know, man. The Squid soul is worth quite a lot. Jason, how much is the soul of black gold worth?
At least $350.
At least 350. Oh man, that's not saying much, I guess. I don't know. What is you got a recent preview of Black Gold, haven't you? The new steampunk MMO from Snail Games.
Yeah, I did. I got to play it over the weekend. Just got my alpha pass on Friday and installed it and played it yesterday and today, Saturday and Sunday. It looks nice. Definitely give it that. It looks very pretty. I thought the character models were really good. Surprisingly, I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but I thought those came across really well. I thought the costuming really looked the part. Even the NPCs tended to look pretty good. So graphically, it looks very nice. But the two big points that you're gonna have to look at if you're talking about this game are, first of all, if anybody played Age of Wushu, and I haven't played Age of Wushu, but I've watched enough people play it, watched some streams, read about it, and actually got a pretty good run through a few months ago with their guys on their expansion they came out with. And when the guy gave me the run through on it and showed me all the different modes that they had in Age of Wushu, all the different instances of kind of stuff you could do, the open world, the PvP, I liked the look of a lot of it. It seemed like it was really cool, but as I found in Black Gold, it's the same kind of thing. There's a lot of different stuff in there, but it's really hard to get to. It's hard to figure out because of the really mediocre localization and the menu system. It's just kind of all over the place. I mean, I spent most of the weekend just doing, your basic linear quests, going from person to person, doing those, which were really not that interesting. At least they were kind of short. It's not like almost everything had to. If it was a kill something quest, it was no more than kill like 3 or 4. So it's not like I had to go out and kill 15 of something and then report back. So they at least.
Was it a lot of killing the same thing over and over?
No, I mean, you moved on to new places all the time. It's not like you go to one place, go back to the guy, go back to the same place, back and forth. It did move you along a lot, which partially lets you look at it and go, gee, this pretty world here. But I spend, 10 minutes in this area and then I move on. So that was kind of making me wonder, like, what's the point? But, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of different modes. There was the best one that looked like to me was the PvP, which a notice came up that there was a PvP in the battle. I forget what it was called exactly. So I click on join, and being an alpha, there weren't that many people around, so I didn't actually get to fight any other players. I only saw one other friendly the whole time. But it was a wide open zone, and there were a bunch of vehicles around that you could theoretically climb into. I wasn't quite high enough level yet, but I was able to create my own little mech, my spider mech that had a cannon that I could shoot with. And once I climbed in, it was kind of like playing Titanfall. It felt like I summon my mech, and it comes down. It doesn't come down like from the sky like a Titan. It just kind of shows up. I can climb in. I can climb out if I wanted to. And then I go chug, 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 going around on the train. I have a complete first-person view. It's like playing an FPS. I can fire my missiles at stuff. There were some flying vehicles there, and at one point there was like a flying NPC vehicle, a hostile running around. I took some pot shots at. So I could see how that could be really cool if you had a lot of people in there doing all sorts of stuff. That part of it could be really interesting. And because it does just kind of pop up, that means it was pretty easy to get into. But there was some other menu where there was like all these different activities, which I had to try and figure out how to read it to figure out what they were asking me to do and how I was supposed to participate and so on. And I'd like to say it's alpha and they'll fix that sort of thing, but I've seen Age of Wushu and I know how their localization is. So
do you think that a game like Black Gold, it could stand on its own as a free-to-play game if it's executed correctly in the localization? It's not necessarily lacking in the mechanics itself, may be mediocre or slightly above mediocre, but it would really sort of suffer if it didn't have a proper localization, unlike, say, Blade and Soul, for example.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, and I know there's going to be all sorts of guides online. People are going to. I've actually read through a bit of an Age of Wushu guide a while back, and it's just like there's just so much stuff there. It's so difficult to get through. It's going to be a pretty high barrier to entry for anyone to get into if they're not reading offline how to execute all the stuff to do online, which is annoying, I think.
Did you see any sort of like big differences between the steampunk and the fantasy in terms of like, you know, of course one's fantasy based, so they use, you know, more magical, while one's steampunk. Do they have really any playstyle differences? I know they have different classes. Are they classes mirrors of each other, but just fantasy and steampunk based, or?
I mean, it played more like a very the steampunk game played more like a traditional fantasy MMO. I played a caster character, and I had, you know, inductions. I fire off my spells and, you know, do that sort of thing. Where it didn't have like the combo based gameplay or anything like that, like you see in Age of Wushu or the martial arts, which seemed a little less of a traditional tab targeting kind of game. Yeah, yes, Black Gold did seem fairly traditional in terms of the gameplay, and it also seemed oddly really easy. Like I played a caster, and the other stuff, the monsters barely damaged me. Like I could just one button fight through them all if I wanted. I mixed it up a little bit, but maybe, and again, that could be just a balancing thing. Maybe they'll figure that out in alpha. But yeah, it was not even remotely challenging through like the 16 levels or so that I played.
Now, see, that makes me want to ask Squid a question. Squid, both of us, we've played through Guild Wars 2. So you sort of know the challenging level of Guild Wars 2, but you've also played through Ragnarok Online, which I can imagine the combat being a little bit more simple in that. You have told me that you don't enjoy really fast-paced combat too much. You like to sort of be able to think it out. Would you consider something slower than Guild Wars 2 along your line, or was Guild Wars 2 like a nice pace that you would be looking for something?
They're both very similar, Ragnarok and Guild Wars 2, like the combat system pace. It's very similar. And it's the speed.
In terms of spamming your abilities and moving around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not what Black Gold is. It's definitely a slower game, I'd say. Like, at least in the solo stuff. I mean, maybe fighting big groups and, like I said, doing the big PvP battles or whatever would be.
Did you enjoy the fantasy or the steampunk more? Or did you like enjoy the setting of one more than the other?
I've never been a big steampunk fan, but I kind of liked how it looked more so I think than I liked the Age of Wushu, and that's just a personal preference. It's nice that they are at least they're not going with your typical you know, sword and sorcery fantasy tropes. They're at least mixing it up a little bit, even if the gameplay is kind of similar.
Yeah, they have names like like non-traditional class names rather. They're talking about like the Punisher. And then
Yeah, I played a conjurer.
Yeah, the Conjurer. It's kind of interesting. They have like the Spell Sword and then the Pyromancer, and then the Geomancer. Like they've got a lot of mancers. It seems like, you know, slight variance in classes between a couple of them. But I did notice they have a couple pet classes, so I'm going to be pretty excited for that. I think was the Conjurer one of the pet classes?
No, conjurer seemed to be pretty much straight up range DPS.
You would think he would be able to conjure things up, but I guess
Yeah,
that's
you
the
would.
occultist actually.
Okay, maybe that's what that is. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and check out the full preview on MMOBomb.com if you haven't already.
Well, we should probably talk about the loot system.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
Because remember, Black Gold Online had that crazy loot system, so we'll just really briefly touch on that.
oh, for sure. So explain to us then the loot system.
Okay, what it is I got loot occasionally from quests. Like I would get, you know, after I fill out a quest, I'd get a piece of loot. However, from monsters, you don't get loot. What you do, well, you get some gold or coins or whatever, and you get like occasional junk loot or something, and like these black gold tridents. But actually, equipment loot, what happens every time you turn in a quest? That quest has a score to it. As you accumulate,
score to it?
yes. Like now, as you accumulate points for your score, every hour, after an hour of gameplay, your total score is saved into a little file, which you can then claim an amount of loot equal to whatever that amount of loot based on what your score was for that hour. And you can claim 2 free ones per day. Any more than that, and you have to pay for it.
And that's all the loot you get.
Well, in addition to like what I said, like the quest loot or whatever. But in terms of, you don't get dropped. You're not going to have a monster's not going to drop a sword for you. You're going to kill monsters. You're going to do quests, and then you might get a sword out of your loot box at the end of an hour. The actual loot, the loot thing I got, for the level that I got, because there's different levels for it. Level that I had basically a random loot and an actual item that I could see. So I could actually decide whether I wanted that one or whether I wanted a different one.
So from your experience, were the things that you could get from that is equal to or better than the quest system loot?
Well, like I said, if I play for an hour and I get like 2 drops basically from it, which if you've played any MMO, you go and kill monsters, you're going to get more than 2 things during the course of an hour.
Of course.
Now, they were like of moderate quality, so I mean, actually, they were something I could actually use at low level at least. I don't know how that's going to work at high levels at raids or whatever. But yeah, it was okay. It wasn't like this total like screw you, we're going to do this free to play thing and you're going to pay through the nose for your loot or whatever, at least at low levels. I just can't, like everything else with this game, it's so complex and convoluted, I just don't see it catching on.
Well, now, did you still get like currency when you killed the
Yeah,
monster?
yeah, I got coins. I got gold or copper, silver, whatever it was.
Well,
that came up just fine. And there were like little crap. Like I said, I got black gold fragments, which are things I use to increase the abilities of my weapons or whatever.
Well, that just seems like an obvious sort of vie for more money essentially. 2 per day, only getting a couple of pieces of items. I mean, unless those items are really, really great.
That's the thing is they probably aren't going to be, like I said, they're just going to be regular stuff. But it depends on how good your score is. Like I never got it to 1,000 loot score for an hour. That was the break point for the next tier of it, so maybe I would have gotten that.
But having anybody have to like try to compete with themselves, and break their pace.
Well, the worst thing is too that you only get, if you log off, whatever you did up to that point is saved, and that's one of your little loop things. So if I played for like 2 hours and 15 minutes once, and I logged off and I logged back on, and I had my 2 1-hour chunks and the 15-minute chunk, which was really tiny. So it was like, and obviously I wouldn't use that one, but basically I didn't get any loot for that 15 minutes because I'm not going to use one of my things to buy that.
So it's not even cumulative then.
No, it's not. When you log off, it ends your session. And then if you play for the other time, I played for like 45 minutes, and I was like, I gotta play for the rest of the hour. I want to get more loot to fill out my time egg or whatever it is. So
not it's like a double dip then. They get you to play more time, and then they get you to unlock more boxes essentially, so you can get more loot. I mean, there's some games, of course, that don't give you loot from monsters. They just innately give all the loot from the quests, which I've never been a fan of those type of games.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it's kind of it's sort of like insulting the player to sort of gate it behind like, yeah, here's your loot. What little loot you're gonna get, it's gonna be gated. You gotta pick, and choose. You only get 2 free a day. Like, sorry, we talk about getting mad at Planetside 2 for having pop-ups, but this is like a whole nother level of you're just not gonna get what you want.
Probably not. Yeah.
Well, needless to say, I can already tell from the look of Squid's face that she won't be playing Black and Gold. Not going to be something she's going to be exploring anytime soon.
Oh, it sounds great.
Well, we'll find out how great it is after it heads into closed beta, and we go ahead and take a look at it then, hopefully with some more video previews. But until then, let's go ahead and move on then to the bombs and A-bombs for this week. I'm going to go ahead and start it off here. I'm giving a A-bomb to Ubisoft for their EndWar Online alpha. Yeah, I know it's alpha. Alpha means things are going to change, but I was just really disappointed to find out that EndWar Online isn't actually an RTS. It's basically like a tug-of-war game, much in the same vein as the StarCraft 2 custom-made modes that you can play for free in the arcade mode of StarCraft 2. So it wasn't an actual RTS. It's actually pretty basic in its mechanics thus far in alpha. Hopefully maybe they can add some more, but just really, really basic sort of tug-of-war gameplay. Not anything really I was excited for. And it bummed me out. It basically makes me now know that there are no free-to-play RTSs on the horizon for sure. That genre is snoozing for now, unfortunately. That sucks. Jason.
I'm going to give a bomb to Landmark, which is now what the official name of the game is. No longer EverQuest Next Landmark. They just cut it down to Landmark. So first of all, the bomb to SOE for doing that much at least. But I'm going to give it a bomb to it just because I have been playing it. I played it in alpha. I've been playing it in beta. I was like, I'm not going to play it in beta now. I made my thing in alpha. It got erased. I'm going to have to regather all my junk, whatever. I don't want to bother with playing it again. Of course, last couple of days I got back in. They put in a party system, so I group up with someone and we gain resources when we're next to each other. So it's like she gains stuff and I gain it too at the same time. So That's great. And it's a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I didn't think I'd get into it because I never really got into Minecraft. But I think just the improved graphics of it, the fact that it does look better than Minecraft, you can do a lot more than you can with Minecraft. And they do have more stuff coming on the way. I'm really optimistic towards how they're going to implement combat and other kinds of adventure later on. That it's really cool. I mean, I'm really liking it.
It does seem to be, once now that they're adding sort of more social aspects to it, the game is really opening up more and becoming something that you can really enjoy. Because gathering resources alone, I don't think is fun for anybody.
Right.
I think that's why even in Minecraft people cheat to have resources, because who wants to gather them alone? But gathering them with someone that's you play with, in your case, someone that you're close to, it sort of creates this bond and creates this sort of, you guys are building something together. It's a collaborative effort. And I think that's where Landmark is starting to shine, even in beta, like you said. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I know that I've been egging on Squid here to build a Hobbit home in Landmark.
A Hobbit home.
That's what she wants to build.
In real life.
So build it first in Landmark. You got to build it in a video game before it can become real life.
I've already been building it in my mind.
Then translate it into something for everybody else to see. And then when we have the money, it'll become a real thing. Or so I tell myself at night.
Sure. What
is your DeBomb A-bomb, Squid?
I will give a DeBomb to my fifth dimensional noise comic website, AmericanNightmare.gov, because in the fifth dimension, anyone can have .gov websites. And just plug that address into your Mindbot and put that directly into your ear, and it should take you to the noise comics, and you can enjoy them.
Is that a pop-up ad? Are we like Planetside 2 now?
Yeah, are you advertising something?
That doesn't exist in the third dimension, of course.
Of course. So DeBomb to that.
Yes.
Didn't say she wouldn't come without some originality here, of course. There's nothing in the DeBomb A-bomb handbook here that says it has to be about a video game. We would have a DeBomb A-bomb about anything here. Jason, there's nothing in my DeBomb A-bomb handbook that says that you can't take the next member highlight here for us.
Oh, okay. All right then. This is from Breckner. He says, I have a double bomb for Soulforge. A DeBomb for the new patch that added so many cards with awesome new effects and a crafting system. The A-bomb goes to that exact system because instead of making it help people who aren't buying packs with real money, it made it easier for those to get the cards they want. 5 coins for disenchanting a common card and 150 to craft one. 140,000 to craft a legendary card. You do the math. That is a lot.
140,000 to craft. I mean, we
Well,
kind of
5
complained about Hearthstone a little bit, but Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Hearthstone is only like, what, about a 5-to-1 ratio or something like that? Maybe 10-to-1? I don't remember exactly.
Not 140,000 to 1.
Well, he says 5 coins for disenchanting, 150 to craft one, so that's 30-to-1 right there.
Well, you did the math for that? Well, I guess you just added it.
It's not that hard. 150 divided by 5.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I see. I
didn't
was
do the
just looking at the 140,000.
Yeah.
Yes, that's quite a lot. It's a huge ratio right there. Have you played Soulforge, Jason?
I have not, no.
But you're like the TCG guy.
Oh, yeah, but I kind of got out of them for a while. I'm still weaning myself back into Hearthstone, so I'm just
you still weaning yourself on Hearthstone?
I don't want to have too many at once.
Okay, not too many TCGs. Can't I guess you can't really get good at either of them if you.
I've done that in the past.
Play too many of them, you just spread yourself too thin. Squid, why don't you go ahead and take this next one here?
The Shadow Wolf.
Shadow Wolf?
No, there's only one W.
Oh, I see.
Shadow Wolf. A-bomb to the fact that there's no new horror MMOs.
Well, what would you classify as a horror MMO? Would you classify, I guess, Secret World as a horror MMO?
Is it zombie monsters and
robots
horror MMO?
I don't think that's an MMO.
It's an FPS. People will argue that it's an MMO because there's a lot of players online. There's been that argument for ages.
Yeah.
It's a horror FPS. It would be classified as a horror FPS with MMO-like elements if you want to get specific. The whole progression system, etc. And there's a whole argument to be had right there. But no new horror MMOs. I would definitely recommend checking out, of course, The Secret World if you haven't already.
I've always been surprised that there's never been like a Twilight MMO that exists.
Don't give anyone ideas.
I'm just putting that out there.
How would you imagine a Twilight MMO would play?
Planting seeds out there.
What would happen in a Twilight MMO?
Well, you have to choose a boyfriend. Is it going to be a wolf, or is it going to be a vampire?
Oh, you mean like Twilight? I was thinking like Twilight Zone MMO.
Oh, no, that's...
Twilight, yeah.
Twilight Zone MMO would be completely different.
We're on 2 different pages here, yeah. Twilight MMO, I mean, there's been vampires. Zombie vampire.
Zampires.
There's been Zampire MMOs, and there's been Vampire MMOs in the past.
Maybe World of Darkness will eventually happen.
Yeah, World of Darkness from the people who made EVE Online, making the Vampire MMO. Who knows? Hopefully, there seems like there was really, really good opportunities for Vampire MMOs back in the early 2000s when everybody was like really into that. It seems to have since died off just a bit here. But moving on, we're gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about the question of the week from last week, which we got some of your comments in about, asking you what were you playing and why. Why were you playing that? So we've got V2099 here saying that he's been playing Dota 2. He's been playing, of course, Dungeons & Dragons Online, the Mass Effect trilogy again, Borderlands 2 at home, Might and Magic, Duels of the Champions at work. Where are you working that you can play Might and Magic, Duels of Champions? Maybe he's working at another video game website where he just plays video games.
Or at a nuclear test facility. Who knows? I
was about to say I used to play video games at work at my last job. Granted, it was for a video game magazine, so.
Yes. If he's doing it at a nuclear test facility, is he like Homer Simpson? Is he just doing it on the job while the uranium bars are going by? I don't know.
I don't think Homer Simpson is much for online trading card games.
Who knows? This is the 21st century, Jason. They can update the show. You can be hip. Jason, why don't you go ahead and take the next viewer question here?
All right, this is from Jacob. He is playing ArcheAge at the moment on Russian servers with English patch. Fun made.
I think it means fan made.
Fan made, yeah, probably. Okay.
Fun made sounds interesting, though.
And the game is quite complex and very wide on what to do, especially for players who like to craft. Well, I mean, we talked about ArcheAge a lot last week, so it's nice to see that he still thinks it's open enough that it's not being too heavily theme parkified.
It's good to see that there is an MMO for crafting players as well, one that has a differentiating amount of crafting. It's not just crafting, by putting 2 things together. It could be crafting with making your farmland or, tending to your sheep or your animals, raising them to become your own mounts. There's like a lot of different terms of things that you can consider crafting professions, if you will. So it's good to see that. Thank you, Jacob, for that encouraging news about ArcheAge. And then finally here, Squid, why don't you take this lovely, lovely question of the week answer here from Kinetic Fetus.
From Kinetic Fetus. I've been playing a lot of PoE, Warframe, Loadout, and Vindictus. As far as, why? Well, you can't go wrong with magic, guns, and loot.
I guess not. It really does cover all 3 spectrums, doesn't it?
Is that a game, or is he just saying that those are 3 things that he's doing?
Those are just the 3 things that he just apparently can't go wrong with.
Can't go wrong with magic, guns, and loot.
I mean, zombie monsters, ninjas, or whatever it was. Sorry.
I guess Borderlands 2 was a really popular game, and that had a lot of magic, guns, and loot in it.
Sure.
Well, magic in a sort of subjective sense, but magic. Kinetic Fetus, thank you so much for that addition to this episode here.
That needs to just be a video game. Magic, guns, and loot.
That's what I'm saying. If you have zombie monster robots, why not magic, guns, loot?
I'm writing that down right now. Magic, guns, and loot. That's going to be my next video game, Jason. When I'm a multi-million-dollar developer, you'll know the idea originated here, right here on MMOBomb. We'll make it together, all right? You can write the story, Jason.
Oh, sure.
Okay. What would the story be like for magic, guns, and loot?
Use magic and guns to get loot.
Ah, that can win some awards right there. It's genius.
Genius.
Print it.
Stammer. It's making me stammer. It's so good. All right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this week's episode of the Free Play Podcast by asking the question of the week for next week, which is, what type of advertisement are you willing to tolerate in your free-to-play games? Squid's answer to that was none whatsoever. We heard her answer. My answer would be like a banner at most, maybe. Dota 2, I think, has a good example of advertisements that are subtle yet not intrusive. And Jason, do you have any sort of idea of what you're willing to tolerate?
Keep it away from the gameplay.
Keep it away from the gameplay. All right, guys, let us know in the comments what you are willing to sacrifice in order to play your favorite free-to-play game in terms of advertisements. All right, guys. So if you want to contact us, we do have a few different forms of communication that we send in. Of course, I can be reached at Spunkify on Twitter, as well as Michael at MMOBomb.com if you care to send me a line through my official email. Jason, where is your Twitter account?
My Twitter is at WinterInformal, and you'll also find me blogging at jasonwinter.wordpress.com and streaming twitch.tv/jasonwinter.
Thank you so much, Jason. Hope to see you on the next Bomb Live next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Usually the days that this podcast comes out. But, Squid, I'm almost afraid to ask, how can we reach you, Squid? Where are you available for us to reach you out in the nether?
Well, you first have to travel to the sun in our solar system. You'll find a monk there. Just leave a message with him, and he'll get it to me eventually.
You heard it, guys. Leave your message with a monk in the solar system which exists on the internet, and somehow it will return back to Squid. She already heard you last time. You said you wanted Squid back, and she returned. So just keep doing that. Use your mental images to portray that message to her, and I'm sure she'll return once again in the future. But until next time, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I will see you on MMOBomb.com, as well as Jason and everybody else. Until then, see you later. Spunkify out. Later, guys.